No one left out. At least 1.7 million beneficiaries so far get emergency assistance from the government following the 2-week enhanced community quarantine in Metro Manila and neighboring provinces. Not a time to be thrifty. President Rodrigo Duterte orders state health insurer PhilHealth to exhaust resources to cover medical needs of Filipinos who have been infected with COVID-19. Hoping for peace and progress, the government urges Filipino Muslims to show faith in action and help the needy as the holy month of Ramadan starts. And more pandemic aid coming. The Labor Department releases over 1 billion pesos for the grant of financial assistance to over 240,000 displaced tourism workers. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The government continues to extend assistance to those affected by strict quarantine measures in the wake of a surge in COVID-19 cases. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made this assurance in a palace briefing today. Citing data from the Interior Department and the Department of Social Welfare and Development, over 1.7 million out of a total 22.9 million target beneficiaries have received aid as of April 11. This is equivalent to aid worth over 1.757 billion pesos. Meanwhile, the DSWD has disbursed over 47 million pesos to provide assistance to over 7,300 individuals in crisis situation since the start of the ECQ in the NCR Plus on March 29. The agency has also distributed over 26,000 family food packs worth 14.4 million pesos for the past 2 weeks. Roque also said the president remains relentless in going after corrupt officials taking advantage of the crisis.
Muling nagpaalala si Presidente na sa mga opisyal ng pamahalaan na alagaan ang pera ng taong bayan sa paglalagay ng safeguards sa pamamahagi ng ayuda. Alam naman natin na walang sinasanto si Pangulo pagdating sa usaping korupsyon. Sibak, sibak, sibak ang kanyang motto.
President Rodrigo Duterte urged PhilHealth President and CEO Dante Gueran to exhaust their resources to cover more medical needs arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. The president said the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic shows that it's not a time to be thrifty. President Duterte earlier directed PhilHealth to cover fees incurred by COVID-19 patients. He said it is better to have spent money for excess medical needs than suffering from a lack of them. He also encouraged all departments and agencies to spend funds as long as they are necessary for government efforts to respond to the health crisis, but warned cabinet officials from engaging in corrupt practices.
Sabi ko kay Giran, huwag kang magtipid. Hindi ito panahon sa tipid. Ilarga mo lahat yan na kailangan ng tao. Baski hindi pa kailangan, lagay mo lang dyan. Total, aabot rin yan. Huwag kayong matakot maggastos. Nandyan ako sa likod ninyo. And I will vouch for you if the transaction is legal and right. But if it is wrong and there's money involved, magkakagano tayo dyan.
President Rodrigo Duterte said the Philippines would have turned into a narco-politic state had he not launched his administration's aggressive crackdown on illegal drugs. Duterte made this declaration after lambasting detained Senator Laila de Lima for her remark about Senator Christopher Bongo allegedly covering up for him while he was out of the public eye last week. The president later spewed verbal attacks against de Lima for her supposed role in the drug proliferation inside the National Penitentiary during her stint as Justice Secretary.
Kaya kay de Lima, tama yan sa iyo. Magtiis ka. Binastos mo ang Pilipinas ng druga dyan mismo sa National Penitentiary. Ngayon, sige kayaw-yaw dyan kung ano-anong pinagsasabi mo na hindi ko kaya. Bakit? Ikaw ba ang nag-elect sa akin? Did you elect me as president? I got my votes, substantial one, to make me a credible president. 6 million yan.
President Rodrigo Duterte said he is willing to waive his COVID-19 vaccination slot to give way to those who need it to live productively. During his talk to the people, President Duterte said he is fine with not receiving a COVID-19 vaccine since he described himself as fatalistic. He said he had always believed that he would die if it is already his time to die, and those who had a better chance of living productively should be prioritized. Duterte earlier said he prefers to be inoculated with China-made vaccine Sinopharm.
I am that fatalistic actually. I've always been. Na kung panahon ko na, either it's COVID or Ebola or whatever disgrasya. Wala ako masyadong dyan sa illusions about life and death. If anyone wants to have it, they can have it. We are not in the priority anyway. Kasi above ano na. Ang unahin natin, yung mabubuhay pa. Well, come to think of it actually. Ang unahin natin yung medyo pag nabigyan ng vaccine, there's a chance that he would live and live productively.
Meanwhile, in a palace briefing Tuesday, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, however, said Duterte's statement is temporary as he hopes this would change once the bulk of vaccine supply in the country arrive. President Rodrigo Duterte dispelled rumors about being ill. He said he purposely decided to be out of the public eye last week because he was busy reviewing and signing papers that involved agriculture issues.
Pipirma ako noong series of yung sa agriculture. Pinag-aralan ko, binabasa ko habang nagsasalita na dito. I was really working on the papers, trying to find out if it's not in accordance with law. It must be lawful, and we have to intrude into so many things.
As a 76-year-old, President Duterte admitted that he suffers from several medical conditions, but stressed that it is not enough to prevent him from exercising his powers as the country's highest elected official. Addressing his message to his longtime friend Mon Tulfo, the president said,
Well, Mon, you've been my friend for a long time. You know that magkasabay lang tayo, nag-abot pa tayo sa Ateneo de Davao noon. Maghabulan lang tayo ng edad. Nang kung sabihin mo may sakit ako, may sakit ako. Pero kung sabihin mo may sakit ako ngayon, that would prevent me from exercising the powers of the presidency. Wala ho.
President Duterte challenged his critics to pray harder if they wanted rumors about his being ill or dead to come true. He also defended photos of himself jogging, playing golf, and riding his motorcycle at Malacañang Palace late night that surfaced the same week he skipped his public address.
If you want me to die early, you must pray harder. Actually, what you intend or what you would like to happen is to see me go. You want me to go and you're praying for that. Yung mga tao na inaano ninyo, inuudyok ninyong mabuhay ng maging presidente pa, well, yun ang nakakasakit na ibig sabihin parang delikadong mamatay.
The 2-week enhanced community quarantine, or ECQ, in Metro Manila and 4 nearby provinces are said to expand the healthcare system capacity of the country. Meanwhile, the Department of Science and Technology explores other possible treatments to help manage COVID-19. The details from Chris Mundo.
The Department of Health says the healthcare system capacity expanded during the implementation of ECQ in Metro Manila and nearby provinces, with additional 164 intensive care unit beds, 2,000 isolation beds, and 700 ward beds. In an online media forum, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosette Vergere said she cannot agree with the Healthcare Professionals Alliance against COVID-19, saying the ECQ has been turned into waste. Apart from the additional beds for patients with COVID-19, she said the government was able to distribute personal protective equipment to hospitals and procure mechanical ventilators and nasal cannulas. Vergere also said that the country's contact tracing capacity has also improved during ECQ implementation. Vergere meanwhile said that the health department cannot determine yet whether there is a community transmission in the country given the surge in transmission. She said they are already working with the World Health Organization to determine it based on parameters and appropriate and adequate contact tracing. Vergere said the DOH is focusing its studies on improving its genomic biosurveillance. Meanwhile, the Department of Science and Technology has approved a study that would explore possible treatment to help manage COVID-19. DOST Secretary Fortunato de la Peña said they have already approved the funding of proposed study and ensured that the results will be put into use. In an interview, DOST Philippine Council for Health Research and Development Executive Director Jaime Montoya said the formulation is being done by the University of the Philippines Manila College of Pharmacy. He said the formulation needs to be standardized first before the conduct of clinical trial. Montoya explained that standardized formulation will ensure that the dose is consistent and correct regardless of whoever uses the formulation in whatever setting. Once approved, the clinical trial will be held at the De La Salle University Medical Center in Cavite. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
Still to come, Muslims mark the start of Ramadan. The government hopes this holy month will bring peace and prosperity. And a lawmaker seeks methods to fund the proposed Bayanihan 3 law without causing a deficit for the country. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
President Rodrigo Duterte hopes that Ramadan will usher in peace and prosperity amid the challenges faced by the country. This as Muslims around the world mark the start of Islam's holiest month today. In his message, Duterte said he hopes that the country can move forward with courage and hope and optimism in his holy month. He also hopes that the fasting for the month would remind the Muslim faithful of the value of sacrifice, obedience, and charity. The president also urged Filipino Muslims to promote solidarity among Filipinos through showing faith in action amid the challenges brought by the pandemic. Presidential Communications Secretary Martin Andanar also joins Filipino Muslims in the observance of Ramadan, which he called a time for contemplation and reflection. Andanar also hopes that the Muslim faithful will seek unity and peace towards an equitable and inclusive society. During Ramadan, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, Muslims fast and offer prayers from dawn to sunset. Majority of the supplies of the coronavirus vaccines are set to arrive in the second quarter of the year. Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said the jabs will be coming from pharmaceutical firms in Russia and China. In In a statement, Galvez said the government is thankful that China and Russia have given their commitment to support to send COVID-19 vaccines in the country. Galvez said the country expects the arrival of 1 million doses of Sinovac vaccine on April 22nd and April 29. Another 2 million doses of government-procured Sinovac vaccine will be delivered in May. Moreover, some 500,000 doses of the Sputnik V vaccine are expected to arrive this month. Galvez also announced they are now on the final stages of negotiation with other vaccine suppliers.
Sa Sinovac po, tuloy-tuloy po ang pagdaloy po ng support ng Sinovac. 25 million po ang ating ongoing negotiation. At sa Seneca, meron po tayong 17 million at ito po darating this coming June. Moderna po, meron po tayong 13 million doses sa government procurement at meron naman po tayo na 7 million para sa private sector. Ang Novavax, inulit ko po, meron po tayong 30 million doses at meron po tayong negotiate po ngayon na 15 million doses for private sector and LGU. Sa Johnson & Johnson, papipirmahan na po natin ang ating kontrata, supply agreement, sa 6 million doses at ang Gamaleya po at malapit na rin po tayo magkaroon ng pirmahan sa 20 million doses. At ang magandang balita po ay nagkaroon po tayo ng renegotiation with Pfizer at tinitingnan po natin na baka magkaroon po ito kaganapan dahil nagkaroon na po ng favorable tinatawag nating comment ang ating DOJ for the indemnification at immunity clause.
Vaccination continues in other parts of the country. In Iligan City, health workers get their second dose of COVID-19 vaccine. The details from Claire Gighe.
The city government of Iligan inoculated its medical frontliners with the second dose of Sinovac vaccines. A total of 1,146 healthcare workers were covered in the 3-day vaccination led by the Gregorio T. Luch Memorial Hospital or GTLMH, the only public hospital in the city, and the Adventist Medical Center Iligan or AMCI, and the Iligan Medical Center Hospital or IMCH, private hospitals which have catered COVID-19 confirmed patients. With the said time for the second dose vaccination, GTLMH gave shots to 413 health workers, while AMCI inoculated 432 medical personnel. On the other hand, IMCH vaccinated a total of 301 medical frontliners from its hospital and 3 more private hospitals in the city. The said hospital administered the jab for its 128 medical personnel, while they also catered 73 health workers from Mercy Community Hospital Incorporated or MCHI and 50 frontliners each coming from Dr. Uy Hospital Incorporated or DUHI and St. Mary's Maternity and Children's Hospital Incorporated or SMMCHI.
So far, wala bang yung problema sa pag-auhag sa mga health worker para makabaton sa second dose because in the first place, katong ang ilahang decision to take the first dose was already very good.
Meanwhile, hospital officials continue to urge the public to not be overly confident with the vaccines as these are just added protection against COVID-19.
Dili yun siya assurance na dili na ka ma-infect sa COVID. Kaya kabalutang mag-mutate ang COVID-19. So, dili ingon nga kung fully protected na ta, dili na ta ma-wear mask o mag-observe o social distancing. Padayon lang gihapon ta sa ito ang naandan. Rest assured nga mapildig yun natin sa COVID.
Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Iligan City Information Center.
Albay Representative Joey Salceda is working with the Department of Finance to find revenue sources for the third Bayanihan measure. He said the proposed Bayanihan 2 Arise as One Act or Bayanihan 3 would be funded in a way that does not increase the country's deficit. Salceda, who is also the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, said the question of funding could be solved by increasing the mandatory dividend remittance of government-owned and controlled corporations or GOCCs from 50% to 70% temporarily. He also proposed to allow the Department of Finance to make capital withdrawals from GOCCs that have accumulated more retained earnings over the years. He said the DOF would soon endorse the passage of taxes on off-site cockpit betting operations or isabong and Philippine offshore gaming operations or POGO, which could also be sources of funding for the third Bayanihan measure. The current draft on Bayanihan 3 includes 108 billion pesos for universal basic income, 108 billion pesos in standby funds, 12 billion pesos in direct funding for assistance for individuals in crisis situations, and 3 billion pesos for medical assistance for indigent patients. More than 28 million Filipinos participated in the Step 1 registration phase for the Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, initially rolled out the mass registration for national ID in October last year, targeting low-income Filipinos. Once an individual is done with Steps 1 and 2, the card will be issued in Step 3. The national ID shall be a valid proof of identity that shall be a means of simplifying public and private transactions, enrollment in schools, and the opening of bank accounts. It will also boost efficiency, especially in dealing with government services where people will only need to present the ID during transactions. Almost 240,000 workers in the tourism sector received financial assistance from the government. The financial aid, which is under the Recover as One Act or Bayanihan 2, aims to provide aid for those who are affected by the pandemic. The Department of Labor says over 1 billion pesos has already been released for affected workers in the tourism industry. The agency said it has approved the applications of some 239,713 workers from over 10,000 establishments and groups. The payment has already been remitted to payment centers. ECQ-affected workers in Manila and the provinces of Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal are highly encouraged to apply for the said benefit.
As of April 6, 2021, a total of 355,797 workers from 13,752 establishments, organizations, and associations nationwide, as well as 12,321 workers who applied individually, have been approved to receive financial assistance with a total of 1.8 billion. Actual disbursement or payout amounts to 1.2 billion pesos. Thank you again, Sec. Bebot.
Rest assured that DOLE will always give its full support to the Department of Tourism workers in the tourism industry. In the coming months, as we start to put our economy on its track, we hope that our tourism stakeholders will get back on their feet, is stronger than before.
Office space demand in the country increases as more firms are optimistic on a post-coronavirus economic recovery. Miko Baranda, Associate Director at Lichu Property Consultants, or LPC, said office demand reached 109,000 square meters in the January to March period, or 22.5% higher from 89,000 square meters in the fourth quarter of 2020. Baranda said there was a renewed interest in the office market as many investors in the Philippines believe that recovery is just around the corner. He said the corporate recovery and tax incentives for enterprises or create law, as well as COVID-19 vaccine rollout, are expected to improve investor sentiments in the next few months. Information technology and business process management accounts for the 33% of firms who are actively looking for office space. This is followed by POGOs at 12% and retail firms at 7%. Up next, the PCOO and the Office of the Cabinet Secretariat will launch a series of activities ahead of President Rodrigo Duterte's 6th and final State of the Nation address. And ready to travel? We tell you about an island in Surigao del Norte that has opened its doors to tourists. We're back after a quick break. Stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, gears up for a series of activities in preparation for the 6th and final State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Duterte in July. The PCOO, together with the Office of the Cabinet Secretariat, will launch a series of activities called Kasama sa Pamana, regional pre-SONA series which aims to inform the public of the major accomplishments of the Duterte administration as well as the plans of the President for the remainder of his term. It will also feature a comprehensive report on COVID-19 pandemic response, including the ongoing national vaccination deployment plan. The Pre-SONA series is in collaboration with the National Economic and Development Authority and Regional Development Councils. It will be launched on Thursday, April 15 in Butuan City. This event will be held in different regions every week until the start of the 2021 Pre-SONA on July 7. Bukas Grande Island in Surigao is now open for tourism. The tourist spot was earlier closed following the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic. Bukas Grande is known for its tourist attractions such as the Sohoton Cave, small islets, lagoons, natural limestone caves, and rock formations. Surigao del Norte Tourism and Culture Office said reservations must be made 3 days ahead with 100% payment to secure permits. It said a no permit, no entry policy will be strictly followed. In Carigara, Leyte, the remains of former NPA leader was given a decent burial 6 years after rebels buried him in a shallow grave. The deceased, identified as Eliazar Sabidalas, was buried around 3 p.m. on Sunday at the Ormoc City Public Cemetery. Prior to the burial, a funeral service was held for the slain rebel, attended by his family members, relatives, former rebels, and soldiers. Government forces exhumed Sabidalas' body in the upland village of Libo in Carigara earlier this month after receiving reliable information from his former comrades. They said Sabidalas was seriously wounded in a clash with the military on July 18, 2015 and was left to die in a shallow grave. Former NPA members said the organization's lack of respect for human life led to the death of Sabidalas. Meanwhile, Europe accounts for more than 34% of new COVID-19 cases submitted to the WHO in the past 24 hours. The World Health Organization noted a record high number in Europe with 222,804 cases, followed by South and North America with 184,717 cases, and Southeast Asia with 164,704. Most COVID-19 cases are recorded in the United States, followed by Brazil, India, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, Turkey, Italy, Spain, Germany, Poland, and Colombia. The WHO statistics are based on the officially confirmed data provided by the countries. The Philippine Sports Commission is under a 10-day lockdown starting today, April 13. Malacanang approved their request for a lockdown after 63 persons tested positive in its latest round of testing. Both the administrative offices at the Rizal Memorial Sports Complex in Manila and the Phil Sports Complex in Pasig City will be under confinement to give way to thorough disinfection and cleansing. PSC Executive Director Attorney Guillermo Iroy Jr. reiterated the observance of all safety protocols. He said the Commission will implement more stringent measures and sanctions for those who will violate the health protocols. The PSC implements work-from-home arrangements to ensure that delivery of service remains unhampered. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. No one left out. At least 1.7 million beneficiaries so far get emergency assistance from the government following the 2-week enhanced community quarantine in Metro Manila and neighboring provinces. Not a time to be thrifty. President Rodrigo Duterte orders state health insurer PhilHealth to exhaust resources to cover medical needs of Filipinos who have been infected with COVID-19. Hoping for peace and progress, the government urges Filipino Muslims to show faith in action and help the needy as the holy month of Ramadan starts. And more pandemic aid coming. The Labor Department releases over 1 billion pesos for the grant of financial assistance to over 240,000 displaced tourism workers. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.